my name is Campbell. I work for BCD Group in the Hamilton office. I'm 2 years into my working career as a structural engineer. I studied at the University of Canterbury. I studied civil engineering there, and this is my video on study life to work life. What does a typical day look like for me as a structural engineering consultant? A typical day for me is generally in and around the office here at BCD with the odd site inspection or meeting with clients. It will start off with what I consider pretty typical, a cup of coffee and checking your emails. It then moves into making sure that my list of priorities and list of tasks is all up to date. Just checking those deadlines and making sure that you're not going to be fighting any fires throughout the week or getting any angry calls from anyone. So really making sure that your list of priorities is in check. As the day moves on through the morning, I like to do my calculations then, just because that's when sort of you get the most uninterrupted slots throughout the day. And then it will sort of generally move into a lot of emailing, phone calls, site inspections, meeting with clients, that sort of stuff. The first thing I wished I knew about working was that you shouldn't be afraid to fail. So failing is something that I've done quite a lot since I started working, but not in the sense that I've really ruined my career, but more in the sense that I've completed many things to a high standard, but with many learnings along the way. Not being afraid to fail is a mentality that certainly helps you, or at least it helps me, learn a lot, and you learn very fast as well by picking up things that you just have no idea about. The second thing that I wished I knew about working is that work is exactly like a university assignment, especially as a structural engineer. You get given a brief and a task, and you give it your best shot to design the beam or portal frame or whatever it is to get that A+ or B+ in my case. But that's not the point. The point is you realize that everything is a self-driven task, and that you want to achieve the best outcome in your work or projects, because it is your responsibility to make that task happen or to get to that the end of the assignment. So just remember that it is your responsibility to make that happen. And if you think a back-to-back assignment at university is tough, well, in work they don't stop. But it's a challenge you should enjoy. You aren't working for your employer, you're working for yourself. So that's my third. The third thing I wished I knew about working was that you aren't working for your employer, you're working for yourself. So what I mean by that is your employer does still pay your bills, so you are working for them. But what I mean by working for yourself is that you should try and identify the things that you enjoy or are good at, but not necessarily the same thing in some instances, but you should try and identify those and outline them to your employer as things that you want to work towards doing and do more often or do all the time, because really it's you that you should be making happy, and if you are happy, you're enjoying yourself, you're learning a lot, then I'm sure your employer will be on the same wavelength as you, because you'll likely be performing well or performing better doing those tasks that you enjoy doing. So remember that you should be working for yourself. One skill that I wished I had mastered at university was, not mastered. I don't believe you can ever really master a skill, but one skill that I wished I had performed better at or tried to perform better at was really the communication course and writing in a concise and factual manner. So as engineers, we're usually pretty good with numbers and problem-solving type activities, but one thing I never really appreciated at university was the art of writing a good report and the communication skills behind it, because it transfers to many things than just reports, like your emails, even speaking over the phone and that sort of thing. So as I've quickly started to move into the client handling space or contractor handling space, even at BCD Group, I've learned that good communication with external parties is a huge part of what we do as engineers, and starting to take that seriously and practice that skill at university would do everyone very well. CPD, or continuing professional development, to me is all about increasing your knowledge of the industry best practices and procedures, as well as learning about industries that may not directly relate to engineering or affect engineering even, but it's just broadening your scope of knowledge and opinions and feelings as well, I suppose, about the whole professional environment. So it's talking to your accountant friends, your lawyer friends, and finding out what happens at their companies, and also, going along to meetings, finding out how people act in meetings, how best to run meetings, how decisions get made and how decisions don't get made. All of that is continuing professional development, among many other things. How do I manage CPD? So there's different ways that I've tried. There's a lot of ways you can manage your CPD and track your CPD. Like I originally started out using a spreadsheet, of course, because engineers love spreadsheets, but that didn't really work out very well for me. I then tried a diary, same sort of thing. I just didn't really have my diary with me when I needed it most, to be fair. I just didn't like carrying it around. But then now what I have done is actually created a Word template for my engineering CPD, which I basically printed out, populate it as I'm in a meeting or as I'm in a presentation, or even after a meeting or after a site visit or something like that. And then I basically save it into my own filing system, which is because the reason I do this and the reason I have found this way and the reason I like this way the best is just because I've created my own filing system, which I can then locate and find my files again pretty easily. And so if I ever need to call up on my learning records, or if I ever need to recall something, I know exactly where it is.